To see a demonstration of the various scopes of a JSP, we have written an HTML file, and in this HTML file, we have included a form wherein we are sending the form. On submitting this form, we will be forwarding the control to scopes.jsp, and in this form we are accepting text argument, so we will be accepting some username from the user, and on click of the submit button we will be setting the attributes of all four scopes of a JSP page. On click of the submit button we will be going to scopes.jsp. This is the code for scopes.jsp. So here in the body, we are first printing hello world, and then in a scriptlet, we have written code to get the parameter u. So this is the parameter that has been posted by the client. So when the client clicks on the button, it will post the parameter, the value that we have inserted in the text box, and we can get it using the request.getParameter method, same as we used to do it in a servlet. And then we will check if the username is equal to null, or if it is blank, then we will do nothing. And if we have received some value from the client, then we are going to set the attributes in all four scopes of a JSP. So page context, request, session, and application, these four are implicit objects, and they represent the four scopes of a JSP page, and we are just setting the attribute named P to the value of un. Then after the scriptlet ends, we are printing the value of each of these attributes using the getAttribute method. So page context.getAttribute P will return the value of this object P, and because we are printing it inside an expression, it will directly get printed to our response. On running this code, so this is the output of scopes.html, and here we have the text box and the submit button. So if we enter some value here, let's say RCOEM, and we click on set attributes, then the value that we have passed to the parameter u will be set in all these four scopes. So we are just setting the attribute, and we are then printing the value of that attribute. So now since we had passed RCOEM as the parameter value, so RCOEM has been set in all four objects. Now if we try executing the scopes.jsp directly, so if we try sending a new request to scopes.jsp without sending any parameters, then this is what we will get. So the page attribute has been set to null now, and the request attribute has also been set to null. So the value RCOEM that we had set when we had run the scopes.jsp first time, that value has been invalidated because the page scope and the request scope have changed. So the page scope has changed because we have run this page again, and the request scope has changed because we have sent a new request altogether to scopes.jsp. So that is why the previous request which was sent, in which we had set RCOEM as the attribute value, that request has been invalidated and the scope of that request has ended. But the session attribute and the application attribute, they still retain the value RCOEM, because the session is still the same. So these two, both these requests belong to the same session. That is why this value is still valid, and the application is also the same. So the context where these are running is still the same. So that is why these two scopes have not ended, and that is why the attributes belonging to these scopes are still valid. And next, if we try opening the same page or sending a new request to the scopes.jsp from another browser, so we'll just paste the scopes.jsp path, and when we run this, so in this case now the page and request are obviously new, that is why they are null, and the session is also a new session because the session that we were using on the previous browser, that session and this session that we have opened on a new browser, it will be different. That is why the session has been invalidated, and the value that was held in the session attribute will now return null because there is no attribute of name P in this session, in the new session. But the application attribute will still return the value RCOEM because the application or the context is the same irrespective of where we are running the application from. The web application is still running and it has not shut down the server or anything like that. So that is why the context attribute or the application attribute still retains its value, and it will also always return the value that we had set, which is RCOEM, until and unless we shut down the server or we redeploy our web application.